The next game, I'm thinking about cracking open a beer.
All right, well, go celebrate with your family. Congrats.
I haven't been around Indiana fans much in my life. Indiana fans are amazing. Indiana fans are awesome. I could not speak any more highly of you guys. I was around you in Atlanta today and in the hotel early this morning, this afternoon, going over to the stadium. It looked like someone kicked over an ant bed full of Indiana fans and they just spilled out into Atlanta. There were like
unprecedented bell ringing at halftime. We've never done it. We may never do it again. These are heady times for the Indiana Hoosiers and Hoosier fans.
Mendoza is better. They're on more same page. They're coached better. They have better talent. Their skill guys are better than they were last year. And they were real. And I just want to point one thing out that never gets mentioned because everybody goes to the Penn State game because of the comeback. They didn't have their left tackle. They didn't have their left guard. And they didn't have Surratt.
Indiana Hoosiers are headed to the national championship game. How does that sound to you?
That sounds good. It means we got it done today. Now we got to get ready for one more. Pretty simple. I win.
Hello, guys, and welcome to this celebratory episode of Indiana Sports Connection. I am your residential anchor. Thank you so much for being here. And thoughts going through my head right now of like what we watched last night. It was absolutely spectacular. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, we're going to talk about this game that the Hoosiers, how they got it done and everything like that. It was a sight to behold, but we're going to get into talking about it. I have a clip lined up of Curt Signetti. He had a great thing to say after the game, talking about last year's team and how this team really progressed based on kind of like what's happened this last 2 years since Signetti's come to Indiana. So we'll look at that clip and we'll talk about everything in the game. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button down below. Turn that black subscribe button white. If you have not done so, take a look at it. Do so. I have a light box that I'm giving away at 4,000 subscribers. It's an Indiana Hoosiers light box. I have a guy here in Fort Wayne. He made this sign for me right here. But yeah, I'm going to have him make me one of these IU light boxes for the 4,000 subscriber giveaway. Thank you to him for making this sign. It looks absolutely spectacular. And I love finding local guys that know how to make stuff like this on like 3D printers and stuff like that. So you hit the subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, pump the video out to more Hoosier fans. We are growing exponentially. You could tell, Pate in the intro, he was at the game. He'd never really seen Indiana play, which I was surprised because some of his takes on Indiana are wacky. So yeah, Indiana is filling these places up. The crowd was like 85% Indiana fans in the game last night. 10% of the AdSense revenue on the channel goes to T2T.org. Without the veterans, we are nothing. Love that charity, what they do for the veterans out there, giving them houses. It is a spectacular charity. Without further ado, let's get into talking about the Indiana Hoosiers. All right. Hillbilly Monkey, what did we see in this game last night? It was... Well, I'm going to tell you, like the beginning of the game, obviously, first play of the game, boom, you're pick six right out. And that just ignited the Indiana fan base from the beginning. It was just on like Donkey Kong. And then you really got to give it to Oregon. What Oregon was able to do, they put together a drive and tie the game up. This game had almost remnants to me a little bit of like the Illinois game, because Illinois did have like a big strike early in that game. You're kind of there. You're like, wow. After Oregon went on their long drive, I thought, this game is game on. Oregon, they have obviously seen something in Indiana's defense that they can go to, and they were really beating them in the passing game. And they were getting a couple of runs in that first drive. But from that point on, it was like Indiana just started to lean on them with their offensive line and their running game. And Oregon, let's face it, Oregon made a lot of mistakes. They shot themselves in the foot. The one play where that's where the continuity, and I know Sco said in the comments about yesterday, about Oregon and how their running back room was depleted and guys were leaving for the transfer portal. Well, you saw that on that RPO play where the running back didn't get out of the way. The continuity was off. Knocks the ball out of his hands. Landino in there 2 different times on strip sacks in this game. Not strip sacks, but fumble recoveries. So Indiana just... the mistakes they made, and they let Indiana right in. It's absolutely what you cannot do to Indiana, do when you play Indiana. And this is exactly what I was saying from watching the Texas Tech game, because I watched that game and Oregon made a lot of mistakes in that game, and it was 16-0 at halftime, but it really should have been a lot more. And when I watched that game, and I said it in my videos, if you make mistakes like this against Indiana, they will make you pay through the nose. But, I mean, they also did it backed up in their own territory where Indiana just got the ball on the 5-yard line on one of those. A couple of those, we were right there to score. So, and then a block punt later in the game gave us another touchdown. And that's, my prediction was 44-14. I really hated that Oregon got that last garbage touchdown in garbage time. I wanted it to be 56-14 to hold up my score, because I said yesterday, 44-21 was my initial. And then I said, well, I don't think Oregon's going to score more than 14. And they ended up squeaking in that last touchdown to really kind of, skewer me there, I guess, for a little bit of their score. I would have been a lot closer on it, but people were giving me a hard time about that. And but I really you cannot bet against Curt Signetti and what this Indiana team has done until they show you something where they are not showing up to a game, they're not playing well. We've not seen it. And we saw, and I put that clip in there of Stanford Steve, talking about Indiana. The Penn State game, we were down a lot of players in that game. It was on the road. It was also late in the season where we had ground out a bunch of games in a row of wins. Surratt was out that game. 2 of the offensive linemen were out that game. I mean, I kind of was reminded that when I heard him say that, so I had to throw that clip in there. But the Hoosiers, how they are able to get this done, there is no weakness in this team. The passing attack, spectacular. The run blocking, spectacular. The defensive intensity, spectacular. Now, Signetti said after the game, we're a little bit thin in some positions on defense, and we definitely are. We cannot have a rash of injuries even in this very last game. We got to keep guys healthy. Farrell came up limping on one of those first plays, but at least we have our key guys are in there. I know, we lost Daly, we lost Wyatt earlier in the season, and I made a mistake in the video yesterday. Stephen Daly did not play in the first game when they played Oregon, so that actually made me feel better going into this game, seeing that he was not out there during that game. It was somebody else. It was Landino coming off the edge in that Oregon when they played him previous. But you're coming into this game and you're thinking, okay, this is where Indiana's going to be tested. And when Oregon was going on that first drive, I really thought, okay, this is where it's different because these teams know each other. These teams have played each other. This game's going to be tight. This game's going to go down to the wire. If you watch the NFL games, you think your NFL team is really good. And then when you play, when it's ever the Colts play, even the Tennessee Titans, maybe not this year, but the division games, the teams you play a lot, you play, more often, normally get to be really gritty, grinded out, low scoring, games where it's just a fight to the finish. And we did not see that here. This was just an
Indiana thrashing.
Really from beginning to end. And, Oregon had that nice drive, but then the mistakes, they started coming unraveled. And then Indiana really, at halftime, you're like, Oregon really does not have a chance in this game. Indiana would have to do something. I was a little nervous at halftime. I thought this is a big lead in a big game. Maybe a situation that Indiana's not, been a part of a game, leading up to the national championship game and being this far ahead. But, they come out on offense, drive right down the field, score, make it 42-7 right off the bat. And right from that point, you knew whatever Oregon was going to do. And then Oregon came back, and they got the 8-point play. They got the touchdown, the 2-point conversion. You thought maybe there was a sliver of hope there, but really it was
a sliver of hope.
Oregon did go on a long drive. What was really one of the ceiling plays of the game in the fourth quarter, if you want to call it that, was Oregon going for it on fourth down. Not learning from Alabama's mistake that they made was going for it on fourth down and running wide around the outside. What? Maybe that was their only option because they can't run the ball in the middle against Indiana at all. But that was just not going to work at all. That pitch play was doomed from the very beginning. Indiana snuffed that play out on defense like a bunch of ravaging dogs. And it was like late in the fourth quarter. You would think guys would be half asleep by that time. But Indiana went right after it, and they got it done. And then that really sealed it up. I rewatched part of like the Pat McAfee show. That was great to watch. But overall, this was Indiana is showing up. I would not be surprised if they filled Hard Rock Stadium with all Indiana fans. But this Indiana fan base, this Indiana team is almost like a sleeping giant, and if you watch Josh Pate's take after the game, he was talking about Florida State because I guess his family were big Florida State fans and how Florida State, was enacted by Bobby Bowden and how he really turned them from a nothing into a power. And a lot of people probably thought that the days of that happening in any type of sporting environment, because we just have this sense of everything is the way it is and it's always going to be that way. But it's just not. A guy like Curt Signetti, when you have a belief in something, when you have a deep, concerted effort to have a plan in place, and the amount of experience that Signetti brings to the table, make no joke about it. It's about execution. It's about this, but his talent evaluations and how he's able to bring guys in who really want to play for each other and they want to play to win. That's really one of the main things. These Indiana players, they are not selfish and self-centered. You see it on the defensive line. You see it on the offensive line. You see it everywhere. Everybody's playing for each other. These guys are not all, gunning for NFL spots or anything like that. They're gunning for Indiana, and they're going to get those NFL spots because of the way they're showing this selfless mindset. And you're seeing some of the guys from last year's team, and that's what we're going to show the clip right now of Signetti talking about where this came from, how that he got this done, and how last year's team, how that team was doubted so badly, and how the 7 guys that came back from that team came into this year and really had that chip on their shoulder even more so than they did last year. But Hillbilly Muggy, let's take a look at that clip of Signetti and what he had to say about the game and last year's team.
Pressure to get it nowadays with the internet, get the story out there. And a lot of those people really don't know our team. They don't know what we're made of, what we got, and I get it. There was a lot of skepticism after last year that we were a fluke. That team did a lot of great things and got it all started. That team never trailed till the 9th game of the year. And when it did, 10-0 in the first quarter up at Michigan State, they scored 47 straight. I think a lot of that negative stuff in the media fueled the guys returning from this team, and we added some real key pieces. The main one sitting right here on my left, but other ones as well. Great leaders, great players. And we've just built off our successes, and we've won some big games on the road, and it helps when you have a quarterback play his best football when the game's on the line in the fourth quarter. And so, here we are.
Well, I've been talking about it, but he finally said it. It's that all of what happened last year and how Indiana was doubted, so that created a vengeance within these players, within these guys, to come out here this year and prove we're not just some silly story about football that everyone can just turn their back on and say, oh, well, you're just some stupid story, get out of here, like what Colin Cowherd said. We've talked about that this week and how the media has ripped Indiana apart. If you're saying that Indiana is anything but a juggernaut at this point, you're just lying to yourself. That's really what you're doing. But this was a spectacular game. I don't really want to get into the specifics of it. Indiana dominated in every facet of the game. The statistics, because Oregon turned the ball over so much, the statistics look pretty even as far as like passing yards and rushing yards, although rushing yards were Indiana took them down on rushing yards. The stats in this game really didn't end up mattering. It was the turnovers from Oregon that really sewed their case. And Hillbilly Monkey, what did you think of the game, and what did you think about the way the Indiana fans and everybody were showing up and showing out there last night?
Carved from the sands of the Wabash River and formed into a monkey lamp that's sold at Home Goods. It's the Hillbilly Monkey Perspective on Indiana Sports Connection.
Oh, I mean, when you're the kind of monkey that I am, and I've been around for thousands of years, this is something that ain't nobody ever seen nothing like this since like maybe Spartacus and 300 take down a bunch of people in Sparta or something like that back in ancient Greece. I mean, this is a warrior story of Kurt Signetti come to Indiana. This will be talked about in folklore and in books for years and years to come. Kurt Signetti will have a giant statue the size of Paul Bunyan raised in the middle of the capital of Indianapolis, and he shall be a king here, maybe for the rest of his life, for what he has done. Only him, and Indiana loves transformational figures like Bob Knight to come in and do this type of thing, and Indiana is the perfect place to do it because it's a place where people never like to shake things up and everybody's very nice and everything like that. So once you get a guy like that here, we really get behind him and we thrash people 100%.
I love your take there, because you're right. It's like transformative figures like this seem to make their way to Indiana. And we do have a state that's like, we're always kind of overlooked a lot of things. We don't have big cities and we don't have whatever, we're always kind of viewed as like the nice guys and all this stuff. But when we get a coach that brings in a system like this, we get all of the right pieces in place, our fan base and the way that we play, this is a lot like watching those IU basketball teams. It is just a systematic dismantling approach that just... I'm at a lack for words. I really am, because it's like you turn the TV on, you're like, Oregon is a damn good football team, and you sit there and you watch this game, and your brain is not really resonating like, this is Indiana still. This is Indiana. We are dominating them through and through, and I'm thinking like, of when you see this. I mean, you saw this out of Alabama from the run they had, 2012 when they like stopped Notre Dame. And I mean, Alabama was able to do this and break the will of teams like this and really beat them. The offensive line is like a bunch of lunchbox kids. They're like the lunch pail guys that just come to work. None of these guys have stars. They did a whole thing about the stars. The stars don't matter. When once you're 3-4 years removed from being a star tag, you've had time to work out and work on your agility and work on different things. You're not the person you were when you were 17. So the stars don't matter. Kurt Signetti's come up with a system and a plan and a place. Fast, physical, relentless football.
Yeah, I'm getting maybe a little too fast, physical, and relentless over here about elbowed my coffee off of there. So,
boy, what a treat this is for us Indiana fans and all of you out there that have joined the bandwagon. People are on board this. They love to see it. I think there are so many people out there that are sick and tired of the way that college football is and the hierarchy of the system. And it's like you don't belong, Who didn't belong this year? Notre Dame. Notre Dame didn't belong this year. There you go. Eat your heart out. Sorry. I love Notre Dame, but I hate people that act like babies. I hate babies. If you lose, you just walk away. They obviously lost to Miami. Miami's in it, and they are a formidable bunch. They deserve to be in because they beat Notre Dame earlier in the season. Now Indiana's going to face off against them in the national championship game. They got like 9-10 days off here. So Signetti's going to have to keep their minds right, but by all estimation, this game could be played in a hurricane, and the Hoosiers would still win. So, and Mendoza's passes would still be super crisp spirals. He looked the best maybe in this game that I've ever seen him look. He looked the most polished I've ever maybe seen Mendoza. He just looked like he was like not missing anywhere on any passes. So it was a glorious night for the Hoosiers. Thank you so much for joining me on this Victory Lap episode of Indiana Sports Connection. And until next time, stay classy out there, Hoosier fans.